What is up, guys? My name is Lex. Welcome back to the vlog here in Round Rock, Texas at the Lodge Card Club, playing a huge live stream 5, 10, 25 with $50 and $100 straddles. We start out with a $4,000 buy-in. If you guys have been following along in my previous vlogs, you know that I am on a downswing, losing over $8,000 in the last 10 days. My confidence level was pretty low. I was making a ton of mistakes. I took a couple days off, but today I am ready to play. I'm ready to battle. What's in the past is in the past. Today we are going to play a massive game, try to get some of our money back. Let's get down to the table. Let's get to the action. Let's go. First hand we play, we're an under the gun +1 with 9, 10 of clubs, make it $75, 3x to straddle. We get 3-bet, basically right next to act by Jay. He makes it $375. Looking over at him, he seems like a recreational player here for fun, so I don't think he's going to be 3-betting me very light. Given the fact that he only has $3,000 in his stack, I feel like it's not a profitable call, so I let my hand go. The very next hand, we are in the under the gun straddle position. There's an open from the button player to $75. I have 8-7 offsuit. Feel like this is a hand I should be defending here, so I make the call. We see a flop of ace 5, 6 rainbow flopping an open-ended straight draw. I check it over to the button, who puts out an $85 bet, and I make the call. In order to improve to a straight, we need a 4 or a 9 going to the turn, which is another ace. I check it over to him, expecting him to bet, which I'll probably be folding, but he decides to check this one back, going to the river, which is the 4 of hearts. We make the nut straight, but the flush does get there, and the board is paired. I don't want to check here and have him check back a pocket pair that he would call a bet with, so I decide to lead out here for $325, basically a pot-sized bet, and we get very quickly called. We show the straight, and it is good to take down our first pot here. I was nervous going into the session, but after playing a few hands, I feel much more relaxed. I make it $175 over a $50 straddle with Jack 10 of clubs, get 2 callers, so we're 3 ways to the flop of King, Jack, 8. We decide to check, and the action checks all the way around. The turn card 3 of diamonds shouldn't change much of anything at all, so I decide to check again with my second pair, trying to get to showdown, and now Jay, in the cutoff position, decides to bet $225, which doesn't make too much sense. I would expect him to be betting the flop with some of his top pairs, 2 pairs, and sets, so I don't really think he has much here. I decide to get a little sticky and make the call with my second pair. The river card shouldn't change anything at all. It's the 4 of spades. I decide to play and flow and check it over to him, and he continues to bet for $350. I would expect him to check back all of his jack and 8x holdings, so this hand doesn't make too much sense. I decide to get sticky and look him up, and unfortunately, he shows King 10 for top pair. We lose all of our profit from the hand before. I think there's a misconception from my audience about my poker vlogs. I feel like some people think I'm trying to be a coach, and that's not true at all. I'm just trying to show the ups and downs of what it's like to play poker for a living. I want to talk about what I was thinking during the session and why I did what I did. Moving on to the next hand, where we have a premium in early position, make it $100 with ace king, get 2 callers. So we're 3 ways of the flop of 3, 3, 5, 2 hearts. We flop 2 over cards, backdoor straight draw, and a backdoor nut flush draw. So I start out with a bet of $125. We get a fold, and Bones makes the call. When Bones calls my pre-flop raise and then calls my bet on the flop, I put him mostly on pocket pairs, so when the turn is the ace of spades, giving me top pair, top kicker, I feel like this is a spot where it's hard to get 3 streets of value from a worse hand, so I decide to check it over to him to let him potentially bluff or maybe value bet a worse hand. Bones checks this one back, going to the river, which is the queen of hearts, bringing in that front door flush. I don't expect Bones to have many flushes here. I think he'd be semi-bluffing that on the turn, so I'm going to go for thin value here. I bet $300, and he very quickly makes the call. A little concerning at first, but I show my ace king for top pair, top kicker, and it is good. We take down another pot here in Round Rock, Texas at the Lodge, under the lights. This game is playing even bigger than I expected. There's a lot of $50 and $100 straddles, so I decide to add on for another $3,000. Over $7,000 in our stack now. I raise to $75 in the hijack position with king queen offsuit. Get a call from the big blind Viper, who seems to be giving a lot of action so far. A lot of fun to play with. We see a flop of jack high, and Viper leads right out for an over pot-sized bet of $175. This bet doesn't make too much sense. I don't think he'd be betting this with basically any hand, so with my backdoor flush draw and 2 overcards, I decide to make the call for $175, going to the turn, which is the ace of clubs. I expect him to be checking this turn card 100% of the time. However, he continues to bet for $300. If he had a Jack X holding, I would expect him to check this on the turn, given the fact that the ace is a scare card. So when he continues to bet, he's repping a very narrow range of 2 pairs and sets. So I decide to call here, given the fact that I'm ahead of all of his straight draws, his flush draws, and all of his total airball bluffs. So we're going to the river which pairs the board and brings in the flush. It's the ace of hearts. He now does slow down and check it over to me, and I'm not sure if I should turn my king high into a bluff. If he has a jack, I don't think he's going to be folding. If he has a smaller flush that he's scared that I have a bigger flush or a full house, he's obviously not going to be folding there either. So I decide to check it back, take my king high to showdown. He says he missed. I show king queen for nut, no pair, and it is good. Scooping down another $1,000 pot. Up early around $355, better than losing. There's a $50 straddle in this next hand. Viper makes the call, folds to me in the small blind with jack nine of clubs, and I think my hand is not strong enough to ISO raise out of position given our stack sizes with this $50 straddle, so I make the call looking to play some pots with Viper and some of the other players. There's a call from under the gun, and under the gun +1 checks his option. The board is 9-9 deuce, 2 spades, flopping trips. I check, and unfortunately the action checks all the way around. The turn is the jack, filling us up right away. I lead out for a small bet here of $75, just praying to get some action. It folds all the way over to Viper, who decides to give us action. He raises up here to $400. This is somewhat of an interesting spot with a full house here. I'm not sure if I should call $400 out of position or put in a re-raise 3-bet so I can take the lead in the hand. I ultimately decide to make the call for $400, so we're going heads up to the river with a full house, which is a total brick. So I put Viper on Jack X holdings, maybe over pairs that he tried to limp re-raise with, or total bluff. So when the river bricks out, I don't know if he's going to try to bluff me. Just one hand ago, he did give up on the river and decided to check. So I decide to lead out here, really trying to target all of his Jack X holdings that might check back, or some of his over pairs that he would bet smaller with, or maybe check back as well. I lead out for $1,700. Looking back, I'm not too happy with the way I played this hand. I think I should be either 3-bet re-raising the turn, or if I just call the turn, I should be checking it over to him on the river to allow him to bluff all of his missed draws, or potentially value bet a worse hand where I could check raise here. I decide to lead out for $1,700, which obviously gives him a free pass to fold all of his bluffs, and I'm not even sure if he would call here with a Jack X holding. Obviously, he only has ace high. He goes through a little speech play, says he can't wait to see it on the stream, and lets it go. Either way, we do take down another pot. This session has been going great for us so far. We haven't been put into any tough spots. We're making hands and getting paid off. Let's move on to the next hand where we pick up our first big pocket pair of the night. I'm in the $25 under the gun straddle. There's a call for $25 from Viper, a raise to $100 from the cutoff. It folds to me, and I look down at pocket kings. This is definitely a spot where I want to be re-raising. I settle on a re-raise to $425. Viper decides that $400 more is not enough to keep him away from seeing this flop. He makes the call for $425. The cutoff calls as well, so we're 3 ways to a flop in a 3-bet pot with pocket kings, which comes out jack high. A great board for pocket kings in a 3-bet pot. I am definitely going to be putting some more money in this pot, so I settle on a bet of $400. Viper pretty quickly folds his ace high, and now Boston Jimmy decides to call. The cutoff is not a professional player, but he does seem to know what he's doing. When he raises pre-flop and then calls my 3-bet and my flop bet, I put him on a lot of pocket pairs like deuces through pocket 10. So when the turn is a 3, I decide to check for a couple reasons. I check to balance out my checking range with some strong hands. It can also allow him to bluff with some ace-high hands or some Broadway hands that he decided to float me with on the flop. And he can also value bet, or he can put out a small protection bet with a worse hand, which is what he's doing right now. He decides to put out a $750 bet with pocket sixes. When I see this bet sizing, I contemplate putting in a check raise here to get max value from a hand like ace jack or king jack, but I don't think this particular player is going to be calling me down very light, so I feel like the best option is to stick with the plan and put in the check call to allow him to continue to bluff or value bet a worse hand. There is now $3,600 in the middle. My heart is racing. The adrenaline is definitely pumping here. Going to the last card, which is the 7 of spades. I contemplate leading out here for a blocker size bet of like $1,000 so that he doesn't check behind all of his Jack X holdings, but I think that would be a little fishy. I decide to check and play and flow, and Boston Jimmy in the cutoff thinks for a little bit of time and checks this one back we show pocket kings, and they are good to take down a massive $3,600 pot. We started off the session buying in for $4,000. We added on another $3K, and now our stack is up to $9,900 with a profit of $2,900 so far this session. It feels good to be winning and running good so far. Now we just have to pray with an hour left on the stream we don't get massively coolered or bad beat. In this next hand, there's a raise from under the gun +1 to $75. I'm in the straddle with king 6 suited. I would normally fold this from an early position raise, but given the fact that I'm on stream and not getting too many playable hands, I make the call 3 ways to a flop, which gives us a flush draw. I check, initial raiser puts out a $125 bet, and I make the call. The turn is the jack of diamonds, and the action goes check, check, going to the river, which is a 3. I contemplate leading out here to try to get him to fold a better ace high or a better king high hand, but I ultimately decide to check, which is good because he has pocket aces and definitely not going to be folding. He puts out a bet, and I snap fold. In this next hand, Matt opens up the button to $75. He has been crushing it so far this session. Folds to me in the under the gun straddle, and I look down at ace king of diamonds. We're going to put a stop to all this winning by Matt. I put in a 3-bet to $325, and he very quickly makes the fold with the worst ace high. We take down a small pot. I hope you guys are ready to watch an exciting hand. The blinds are at $5, $10 with a $25 straddle, a $50 double straddle, and a $100 triple straddle. It folds to me, and I look down at the Angels, American Airlines, pocket aces. I make it $350 with the best hand you can ever get pre-flop. Let's play a massive pot here. The $100 straddle makes the call. JC is very aggressive. At any time, he could put you all in for your entire stack, so we could potentially be playing over a $20,000 pot here with pocket aces. We see a board of queen, 8 deuce, 2 diamonds. On this flop, JC checks it over to me, and I put out a bet of $350. JC matches my bet, so we're going to the turn, which is another 8 pairing the board. This card is actually going to be better for JC's range than it's going to be for mine. I'm not going to be raising too many 8x holdings to $350, but he's going to have a ton of 8x hands that he's going to call with pre-flop and call with on the flop. So I actually contemplate maybe checking this one back against a very capable player who could be putting me in a super tough spot being very deep stack. However, that doesn't happen. He decides to lead out for $450 on this turn card. With all that being said, this lead is a little bit worrisome given the fact that he can have trips and I really can't, but the sizing is kind of interesting. He only leads for $450. I feel like if he did have trips here, he'd be betting a lot bigger, so I actually put him on a lot of queen X holdings, queen 10, queen jack, and king queen. In position against a player who is not afraid to put in a ton of money as a bluff, I think the best play here is just make the call, which is what I decide to do. So with $2,400 in the middle, we're going to the last card, which is the 4 of clubs. On this river card, I'm thinking to myself, if JC leads out for a pot size or over pot size bet, I will just make the call, but he decides to bet 1/5 the size of the pot. 1 purple chip, $500. This bet sizing on the river is very, very odd. I feel like he's super unbalanced here. I don't think he's ever using this $500 bet sizing with a bluff just because I'm just going to call with all of my pocket pairs, which makes me think he has a queen X holding that he's trying to get me to call with all of my pocket jacks, 10s, and 9s. If this hand happened last week when I wasn't playing my best and I was making mistakes and my confidence level was very low, I might just flick in the call for $500, but today, before the session, I told myself I have to battle with these guys. I can't let the high stakes get to me. I have to go with my gut. I have to try to play the best poker I possibly can. I feel like I have the best hand, so I'm going to raise for value. Going to put in one of the biggest bets I've ever done in my career. I raised to $2,700. Right after I make this raise, JC keeps a stoic figure and looks over at my stack just to see how much I'm playing, which obviously is a little worrisome. He might be contemplating a raise all in, but as time goes on, you can see he puts his hand on his head, which definitely looks like he's contemplating a call or a fold. I'm confident that I have the best hand now, so I am rooting for a call. So far on my Texas trip, I have not been doing good. I've been running bad. I've been playing bad, making mistakes, losing massive pots, getting coolered and bad beats. So it is finally our turn to win a big pot. JC goes into the tank for what seems like forever. Over 2 minutes of thinking, and ultimately he decides to put in the call.
Nah, that's a call. Showdown. Aces and 8s of the queen.
Shows the aces.
Finally, we win a big one here in Texas, $7,800 in the middle being shipped over to us. If you guys remember watching my Texas Card House vlog, JC stacked me aces versus ace king, so it is nice to get some revenge. However, there's obviously no bad blood. JC is a super cool guy, and he was really nice to me while I was there, but the stream is over now. However, we are not done playing poker yet. We have one more hand to go over. After the lights are turned off, we do end up playing a couple more hands here. One hand we lose about $100, then we do end up losing about $300 in a double board PLO bomb pot before there's a $50 straddle on. I have $13,000 in my stack and look down at pocket aces, raise to $200. Only JC makes a call, heads up to a king 10-10 board. He checks and I check back. The turn is a queen, he checks again. I put out a $300 bet and he folds. This ends up being the last hand we play on this session. We have over a $13,000 stack. I have not booked a win in over a week, so I decide to call it quits after 4 hours. I end up racking up my chips, heading to the cage, and cashing out for the night. All right, guys, that is it for this session. Today, we ended up profiting $6,130. Much needed. It feels so damn good to book a massive win. I've been running very bad this last week in Austin. I lost a ton of money on a Monday live stream. I made some bad folds, some bad plays, some mistakes, and it was really getting to me, to be honest. Like, I was not feeling confident this whole week. I was down money. I was making mistakes. I didn't feel good about my game. I woke up this morning, Saturday morning, and I actually thought about telling the director that I couldn't make the game. I wasn't feeling good about my plays. I just felt like I was in over my head, and maybe I just shouldn't play. But I snapped myself out of it, and I thought to myself, look, like, this is what you're trying to do. You're trying to play high-stakes poker. You're going to make mistakes sometimes. It's going to happen, but you can't just quit. Can't just give up. You can't just go back to 2-5. I got to keep pushing myself. I got to have confidence. I've been through worse things in my life than just a little poker downswing. So I went to go play golf, play with my puppy, worked out, and I felt good going into the session. I knew, look, like, whatever happens, I'm just going to try to play my best, try to be the best poker player I can be. And luckily, I ran very pure tonight. I didn't get into any tough spots. I got paid off when I had it. It was amazing. Didn't get coolered. And it just feels so good. Ended up cashing out the biggest cash out of my entire life, over $13,000. Pretty sure I won the biggest pot of my life there with pocket aces. Like, just can't get much better than that, to be honest. I really appreciate you guys if you watched all the way through this video. Obviously, it helps having a big fan base, and the positive comments mean a lot. And if you guys watch the live stream as well, I appreciate it. Obviously, I talk about commenting down below. And what I mean by that is if you want to put a comment, that's great. But it helps YouTube push the video if there's a lot of comments. So that's why I ask you guys to put in a comment, because it helps push the channel, which helps grow the channel, which helps more people see it. So if I get a lot of comments, then YouTube feels like it's a great video and they want to push it out. So if you have the time, I would appreciate if you put a comment down below. Helps grow the channel. If you can like it, that'd be great as well. And then subscribe. If you're not subscribed, it's for free. I make poker videos just like this every single week. But that is it for this one. Booked a massive win. Feels good. Next up, Dallas for 1 week, then Vegas, then Los Angeles. This long road trip is only halfway through. Hope you guys are enjoying these videos. And until next time, I'll see you.